Hi everybody, it's Geordie from Geordie's Cards. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am creating a Fawn Reveal Wheel card using some Lawn Fawn products today. I wanted to enter the current Lawn Fawn challenge and I decided to pull out some stamp sets that I've not really used a great deal of. So the ones I have are the Ocean Shell-fie stamp set, the Year 7 stamp set, which is this fun little piñata. And then I used the reveal wheel. So what I used is the original reveal wheel, including the kind of puzzle piece that goes in with that. So that all came together as the original reveal wheel set. And I also used the Heffy Doodle Wave to me stencil. So to start with, I cut all my pieces. So from Lawn Fawn 110 pound cardstock, I cut a base, a reveal wheel base without the little window, and the two kind of circular dies that come with it. And then from some Bristol Smooth cardstock, I cut this piece, which is the kind of window piece, the main part for the front of the card. And I am now just kind of covering up those stitching lines with some purple low-tack tape. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do some ink blending on top of here, but I want I want the edges to be white. So where those little stitching details are, I want them to be white. Now, it was a little bit tricky going around this kind of curved part, but I made it work. So what I did was I drew a little line with my pen and then took my scissors and cut out a shape that worked around that little edge piece. It was a little bit labor intensive, but it didn't take too long. And I think it looked nice. I like the look that this gives, this kind of white edge. It kind of gives a nice finished look and I really like it. And I do it a lot in my card making. So often if I'm doing some ink blending on the background and I've got a stitched panel for the background, I'll often use this technique. I just like the kind of finished look that it gives. So I'm just finishing off drawing out that kind of little bit of curve and just cutting that down with my scissors to kind of fit in place so that it covers up those stitching lines. And then I'm ready to do my ink blending. So I've pulled out some Speckled Egg Distress Oxide and my blending brush, which is just a cheap makeup brush that I picked up in my local supermarket. And I'm using that just to kind of put a base coat of colour down all over. So I'm not being too careful with this. I'm just laying down a base coat and I'm keeping it quite light, not too heavy-handed at this stage. Then I'm going to bring my stencil on and hold that down with my magnets from my Make Art station. And this is where I always forget that you should never move in a circular motion when using a stencil because it moves. And I kind of forgot that. You kind of have to go back and forth following the lines of the stencil. So my stenciling is not perfect today by any stretch of the imagination, but it's good enough. I think it works out quite nicely. And actually, when you're talking about kind of water in an ocean scene, it's, you know, it's meant to be a little bit kind of textured. At least that's the excuse I'm going for. So I'm just popping it back down again, trying to put it in place and adding some darker pieces here and there just to give it a little bit more life and depth. But pretty happy with how that turned out in the end. Now I'm taking some Salty Ocean Distress Oxide again and just smooshing that down on my mat, spraying it with a little bit of water, and then I'm going to pick it up with this little fine paintbrush and splatter some spots all over. This kind of darker colour, sorry, it wasn't Salty Ocean, it was Broken China that I'm using here for the splatters. So Broken China Distress Oxide ink, and I'm just splattering that all over to create some more interest to my background. I'm going to be creating quite a colourful card today, so I didn't want to do anything too much in the background. I wanted to keep it fairly not neutral, but not too in your face for the background. So now I'm taking that reveal wheel piece and I'm using the stencil that comes with it. So it's with the templates that comes with it, or it doesn't come with it. You have to buy them separately, but it's designed to work with this reveal wheel shaped window. So it's the Reveal Wheel Templates Essential set that I've used here. And I'm just holding that down again with some low tack tape. And I've got my little sweets from my Year 7 Pinata stamp set, and I'm going to do some stamp surgery into them, which can be a little bit intimidating and scary, but I wanted to cut my sweets apart because I wanted them separate rather than together in a bunch of 3. And as long as you're, careful and don't kind of cut over the raised edge of the stamp, it works absolutely fine. And you can always put them back together again if you want to. You can just match up the pieces that you've cut. But I wanted to use these separately, so that's what I did. And now I'm using my Lawn Fawn Jet Black ink, and I'm going to stamp these out in my reveal wheel. And I'm just going to turn and stamp so that all 4 of my little windows have been stamped with 1 lollipop and 1 sweet. And then I've also gone ahead and stamped out my other images from the Ocean Shell-fie set on to some more Copic friendly cardstock with my Lawn Fawn Jet Black ink. And now it's time to do some colouring. So I'm using my Copics today. I'm starting off with G05 and G03, I believe, for my greens. For my yellows, I'm using Y13 and Y15. And I'm just keeping these colours nice and bold and bright. I want them quite kind of almost primary colours. As I say, I want this to be a nice bright coloured card. I'm using YR18 and YR16 for my oranges, and then for my reds I'll be using R27 and R24. And then for the little lollipop sticks, I'll just go in with some YR000 just to give them a dab of colour. You're not really going to notice them that much, but I just wanted them not to be plain white, so I just used that YR000 for those. So after all my sweets were coloured in, I wanted to colour the actual wheel part. I'm using B000 because I wanted to kind of match it to my background as much as possible. So the speckled egg background that I did with my Distress Oxides. And I'm just colouring inside those little score lines that go right around the edge of the wheel. So my actual part that's going to be sticking out that you turn is going to remain white. But this is the part that you're going to kind of see through the little reveal wheel window. So I wanted that to kind of match in with my background as best as possible. It's not a perfect match. I struggled to find anything that would work perfectly with the speckled egg, but I think this works good enough. So I'm just going in quite roughly. It doesn't have to be perfectly smooth. You're not going to see a great deal of it, but just going in with a bit of colour so that it kind of fades into the background a little bit as well. Now I'm going ahead and colouring all my other images, and I'm doing my sweets in exactly the same colours as I did on the reveal wheel. So the inspiration behind this today was the Lawn Fawn challenge, which is going on at the moment. And the challenge brief is fun with food. And I've missed quite a few of the challenges for Lawn Fawn recently. I tend to try and do them, but for the last few times I've missed out. I don't know why. I think I've just been distracted with other things in my craft room and haven't got around to joining them. But I really wanted to join in again, and I decided to flick through my stamp sets and see what I could find. And I pulled out a bunch of kind of food-related stamp sets. And then I saw this Ocean Shell-fie set, which I haven't used in quite some time, or I haven't used at all, ashamed to say. It's been sitting on my desk waiting to be used, and I kind of thought, I could do something with that. And this idea of him, this big octopus, juggling the sweets kind of sprang to mind when I saw my little pinata set. So I decided to try and make this work. I wasn't 100% sure if it was going to turn out when I started, but I think it did come together quite nicely in the end. I really like doing challenges, and a lot of companies do have challenges either monthly or weekly or whatever, it's every 3 weeks, something like that. But it's fantastic if you're in a little bit of a crafty slump and you're not sure which direction to go in. It can kind of give you, it can narrow down the options so that you can kind of focus your efforts. And it's a lot of fun to join in the challenges. It's also great to see how other people interpret the challenges. I know MFT do one, I know that Heffy Doodle do one, I know Hello Bluebird do a challenge, and obviously Lawn Fawn. And some of them are colour challenges, some of them are sketch challenges, and some are like this one from Lawn Fawn today, which is just a kind of design brief. So the brief was fun with food. So you can kind of interpret that any way you want. And that's the great thing about it. It kind of gives you a direction to go in, but you can still be creative and come up with lots of ideas. And I love seeing what other people do for the challenges. I love seeing all the inspiration that other people have come up with, all the different ways that things get interpreted. It's a lot of fun. And as I say, it's quite good to get your creativity going if you're in a bit of a slump. It's also great if, like me, sometimes I have so many ideas that I don't know where to start. And often that happens particularly if I've just received an order of goodies and I have quite a few new stamp sets and I'm not sure which direction to go in. So often, I mean, I know that's a really horrible situation to be in, isn't it? But it's a nice way to kind of direct the creativity and kind of think about pinpointing it so that you can, join in this challenge. So I really like participating in them, and I try and do at least one a month. It's not always regular, but I do try and join in as much as possible. And the other great thing is that a lot of the time they have some fantastic prizes as well. So I know I have only one in the past, which is the Heffy Doodle one, but I got a lovely gift voucher to spend in the Heffy Doodle shop. So it's really worth doing, and it's a lot of fun. So let me tell you quickly about my colouring. So for my octopus, I used BV08, 04, 02, 01 and 0000, which was just on the little spots of him. Now he is a very large image, so I recommend breaking him down into parts, just like I did with my colouring. For this guy, this little jellyfish, I went in with RV06, 04 and 02. Initially, I put the 02 in the main body part of him, but it's quite a bit different to the RV06 and 04. It's quite hard to blend. So in the end, I just used that for the tentacles. For this other little jellyfish, I'm using YR02, 00 and 000. These are some of my favourite orange markers. I really love them. And then for my two little fish that I've got going on here, I'm using G05 and G03. I did bring in G02 as well, but I found it was a little bit too similar. I was going to do his fins in G02, but I found it was a little too similar. So what I did was I coloured over it with my Y15, I think it was. I just thought he looked a little bit too bland when he was all green. So here I am taking my Y15 and just going over those fins. And I think it kind of turned out quite nicely. I was quite happy with it in the end. And then for my other little guy, I'm using YR18 and YR16. And then I'll use that Y15 as well for his fins too. These were lots of fun to colour. They were quite quick to colour up. I didn't do a fantastic job on the colouring today, but I was very happy with how my octopus turned out. I really, really liked colouring him. And as I say, he was quite a big image to colour. So I just separated them into little pieces. Once I've done all my colouring, it's time to bring out my white Sakura Jelly Roll pen, as always, and add some highlight details to all of my images. This is something that I like to do when I'm colouring. Sometimes I forget, but I try and do it as much as possible. I just like the look that it gives. I just think it makes them look a little bit more finished and a bit more polished. And I'm just adding, because I used quite dark colours, I didn't put any kind of rosy cheeks on my little critters today. But what I am doing is just popping a couple of little dots down on the cheek area with this white gel pen, just to add a little bit of something, I suppose, to them. And once I'm finished with my gel pen, I will go ahead and fussy cut all of these out. I don't have the coordinating dies, so I'm going to fussy cut them out by hand. When I did fussy cut them, the little tentacles on the big octopus that are kind of curled under, I used my craft knife and I kind of carefully cut into those slightly so that he could hold on to the sweets. And I'll show you that in a minute when I put it together. So right now I'm attaching my kind of pieces together, my circle pieces together with a small brad, and I'm pulling out that template again and lining it up. So this is going to help me to attach my front panel to my back panel. So I'm bringing out some small foam squares. I'm just going to attach them around on that smaller circle at the back, making sure not to touch the brad so that it can move freely. Then I'm going to line it up again with the front window, hold it with my hands at the back, and then press it down onto that back panel. And then it should fit perfectly. Just going to open up that brad again and take the template off, and that's my kind of reveal wheel part complete. So now I just need to add some foam squares all over the back. Obviously use foam squares so that it's not kind of sat right on top of that reveal wheel, but you just need to make sure that it doesn't, the foam squares don't actually touch the wheel, they just go around the outside of it. I'm using loads. You probably don't need to use this many. Sometimes I kind of go to town with them and use plenty. Other times I don't use quite so many. It kind of depends on the mood I'm in, I suppose. But today I use lots. So I'm just going to peel up all the backing paper off those. And once that's done, I'm not going to show all of it. I'm going to attach my front panel to my back panel, making sure that I line everything up nicely. And there we go, there's my little reveal wheel all set. Now I just have to add my images. So as I said, I cut some little slits into the kind of curled up tentacles of my octopus so that he could hang on to these little sweets and make it look like he was, you know, holding them in his tentacles. So I'm just adding a dot of glue. I'm using my Barely Art Precision Glue and attaching the little sweets down. I'm going in order of sweet, lollipop, all the way around. No particular color order. I'm just kind of popping them in whichever order I want. I guess the only thing I'm trying to do is make sure that there's no two colors sat right next to each other which are exactly the same. So I don't want two red sitting next to each other. But other than that, there's no rhyme or reason to how I'm placing them in. It's just popping them in willy-nilly, really. And just taking my time to make sure that I can kind of get them situated the way I want on his little tentacles. I really wanted it to make it look like he was juggling these sweets. I'm not sure that it turned out perfectly, but I think it works quite nicely. So I'm just figuring out where I'm going to place him on my card. And then I'm going to attach him down with some glue. I'm being careful not to put glue right up to the top of his head because that part of him is going to be just slightly over the reveal wheel. And I just managed to drop him. I was all fingers and thumbs today. I don't know what was going on. But just attaching him down and making sure that he's all secure. Just popping in little bits of glue in any places that weren't completely secure down. And making sure he was all nice and stuck on there really, really well and wasn't going to come off anytime soon. So yeah, just fiddling around with it a little bit more, making sure the reveal wheel was working properly. And I'm sorry I've cut that part off at the top. And now I'm just figuring out where I'm going to put all my other little pieces. So I'm just going to place them down, kind of figure out where they're going to go, how I'm going to fit them in. Obviously, they're all kind of facing towards the right-hand side of the card. So I wanted to try and pop them on so it looked like they were kind of swimming towards the sweets. And so I've tried to spread them out as evenly as possible all around the little octopus. But yeah, that I kind of wanted to make them look like they were kind of swimming for the sweets and hoping that this guy was going to drop some at some point so that they could all have a little treat. But that's kind of the main part of my card complete. And then I took some of the new Lawn Fawn All the Dots paper pad, which is the small 6x6 paper pad. And I created this little banner. I just kind of cut a little strip and made the little fishtails on either end. And I stamped out the sentiment which says, "It's your birthday." And this one comes from the Lawn Fawn Village Shops stamp set. And then I cut another piece which is 5.5 by 4.25 to use as my kind of background piece. So I'm going to go ahead and attach my kind of card panel onto that all the dots paper. I'm going to use my liquid glue again for that, and just make sure it's completely covered and nicely stuck down. And then I'm going to try and center it as best as I can using my grid mat to help me. This doesn't always go to plan for me. I often get it a little bit skew with, but I think today it turned out quite nicely. And then once that's done, I'm going to take this Reveal Wheel Sentiments stamp set, which has this little Turn Me stamp, and I use this quite regularly on my Reveal Wheel cards. It just kind of slots into that little gap there quite nicely. I'm using my Versafine Onyx black ink to stamp this out, and just putting it in place. I've then cut a standard size card base from some Mermaid cardstock. And I've used another little sentiment from the Village Shops stamp set, which says, treat yourself. I've also used those sweets again from the Year 7 stamp set and one of the little fish from the Ocean Shell-fie stamp set, and stamped it on the inside to kind of complete my sentiment. And now I'm just attaching my card front down onto my card base using some Lawn Fawn liquid glue. And that is it. My card is complete. I hope you enjoyed this one today. I had a lot of fun making it. It's always fun to join in the Lawn Fawn challenges. I can't wait to see what everybody else creates. Let me know in the comments if you're going to join in as well. I'd love to see what you've created. Please do give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it today, and do think about subscribing to my channel. I'd love to see you come back again. Here is another video I think you may be interested in. Thanks so much for joining me. Take care. Bye-bye.